Hello, welcome back to Garden Obsessed. I think you can see what my future might entail for the next couple days here. There's still lots of green tomatoes outside, but I've been kind of setting aside one or two tomatoes with a little note about what they are. I think this is these are a couple paulrobesons. This is a kellogsbreakfast, pinkberkleytiedye, which now that this is ripe, is that not like the coolest? Such a cool tomato. Anyway, what are these? Triplelcrop. These are the germanjohnson. And this is katiesoxheart. I've also just got some random cherry tomatoes and ground cherries. And you probably can hear it still, but we haven't had a video in about a week and a half, and that's because we are just getting over COVID. So we had gone to Toronto. We went to see an Elton John concert on his farewell tour. And I don't know if we picked it up at the concert or if we got it on the plane on the way home, but we brought back a souvenir we weren't meaning to. So it kind of kicked both Jarrett and I's butts a little bit. It started with body aches, and it was probably day 3 or 4 before it kind of moved into my sinuses and my head and then down into my chest, and it's been there for about a week now, and I'm ready for it to go away. I definitely feel a ton better, but I am finding myself, I get I'm definitely experiencing fatigue, and I think Jared is as well. And we did have some different symptoms. I won't go into it. I'm sure everyone's tired of talking about it, but we did experience it in a few different ways, but we are both still kind of experiencing fatigue, and for sure I am noticing myself out of breath quite a bit lately. But that's not why you're here. I just kind of wanted to give a little preamble why I haven't been around. And I've been doing just the bare minimum. I've got a bunch of ripe tomatoes that need dealt with. Excuse me. And I know there are a bunch of green tomatoes. Not as many here at home, but at the community garden, there's still a ton. I've got some plans for some of those, which we'll talk about at another time. But probably soon, because today is Tuesday, and yesterday morning, it was only supposed to go down to 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, and on Sunday night I did go in and pick a bunch of things that were getting close, like a lot of this tray of tomatoes I picked the other day. Some of them are still a little green, but they are starting to turn. You can tell they're a little less ripe than the ones over there, but I kind of just had a feeling, and once it starts to get down that cold, I get paranoid that, I've had things get frosted and ruined in the past, and I would rather get it green or underripe than let the frost get it. So we did go and pick a bunch of things. I did leave quite a few because I knew we still had quite a few here. Like, if this is all the tomatoes we end up with, it will be plenty. I've already done several batches of salsa and bruschetta. I'm gonna do one more batch of salsa, I think, and maybe I'll show you guys, because we have kind of a different recipe than your typical salsa recipes, and it's by far our favorite. This is the only one we make now. Although if I get all those green tomatoes, maybe there will be some salsa verde in my future too. But And, you know, I ran into a couple people at the garden and they were like, oh, it's overcast and it's only supposed to go down to 6 and there won't be a frost. And sure enough, there was a frost. We got an email this morning that some of the tender things had been touched by frost. So I haven't gone to check it out yet. I'm not too worried. All of the exposed tomatoes were picked. It's mostly green tomatoes down into the plant, and it was a light frost. So those things should be fine. Same with the peppers. Like the plants might be touched and suffering, but the fruits should be okay. But we are expecting remnants of a hurricane on Friday. Today is Tuesday, yes. So on Friday, I think before then, I will go and get most of the things out of the garden. I think it's supposed to rain between now and then, so we might have to do some running in between the raindrops, but the time is now to get the stuff out of the garden. But today, I wanted to talk about these tomatoes specifically, not so much the cherries and the ground cherries, but all these slicing tomatoes here, because it's seed saving time. So I'll show you how I do that. I did do a couple the other day, so I'll show you my jar here. So tomatoes, I mean, you can pick the seeds out of a tomato and dry it and it will have that, you know, that little sack of gel that's kind of around a tomato seed. It will dry out, and you know, they will be, some of them will be viable, some of them won't be. Same with this method that I'm going to do. But I find I have the most success when I take this extra step to ferment the seeds. And all that means, literally all that means, is that I am going to scoop out the seeds from each of these tomatoes, which we will go through together, but I'll give you a little preamble here now. And I throw it into a jar or a cup. In this case, I did a jar, and I just put some paper towel and screwed the ring down to keep fruit flies away. And these I did 3 or 4 days ago. So you can see there's a couple seeds floating on top. Those ones are not viable, so those ones I'll just rinse away. And all of the viable seeds, hopefully you can see that, kind of sink to the bottom there. So these will be easy to now dry out. They'll be nice and clean, and I will have a lot better luck with viability because all of those viable seeds, I'm getting rid of all the ones that are floating and not viable, and all my viable seeds will sink to the bottom, and I'll be able to collect those and dry them nice and easy. So let's start cutting open some of these tomatoes. Okay, I've got my jar, and ignore the dirty sink. I'm gonna fill and dump out the water and any of the floating stuff to kind of rinse my seeds before I strain them in a strainer and put them on a paper towel. So I'm just gonna fill it and let the seeds settle a little bit, and then pour off the top water. I'm going to do this a couple times until it's mostly clear. Any of those floating seeds, I'm okay with those going because those are not viable anyway. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, we've got our rinsed seeds here. Just draining as much water off of them as I can. I think that's as good as we're gonna get. And I'm just gonna dump them onto a piece of paper towel. I have them labeled with 2 of my friends' names because they had these tomatoes and said they were the best tomatoes ever, but they couldn't remember the name of it. So hopefully they figure out the name of it, but until then I'm calling them Sandy and Adam. A paper plate works better because these will kind of stick to the paper towel as they dry, but I don't have any paper plates right now, so this is what I'm gonna do. And I'm just gonna kind of whack them over, see if I can get them all off. And then I'm just gonna kind of spread them out a little bit so that they're not all balled up together. And hopefully they'll dry a little quicker and better that way. If I leave them all in a pile, they're likely to mold on me, which I don't want. And that's pretty much it. So I'll leave this here, a couple little pieces of tomato I didn't quite get, but I'll leave this here for probably a week to dry. And once all of the seeds are dry, I will take them off of the paper towel and put them in a little baggie with a label so I know what they are, and I will have them for next year. Okay, I've got my katiesoxheart here. This is a beautiful tomato. I have not liked like Opalka and Amish paste in the past. I found they had a lot of cracking. I will probably try them again, but this year I tried this tomato and I much prefer this one to those. I don't know what it actually is. It's called katiesoxheart because I got it from a local seed company. It's Revival Seeds, if anyone's interested. They're located in Nova Scotia, where I am. And it's a family heirloom tomato that they've passed down. So exactly what it is, I don't know. They call it katiesoxheart, and it is just, you know, an oxheart tomato with very few seeds. So we'll see how many seeds are actually in here. I've got my jar rinsed from the previous tomato seeds that I had in there, and I'm gonna just use a spoon to scoop out any of the seeds and stuff. So we'll get this cut open. Beautiful tomato. But as you can see, very few seeds. So I'm gonna maybe cut this one more time. I see a couple seeds, not very many. Do my best to scoop out what I can find here and put it in my little jar. There's a few here. Oops. It's an awesome paste tomato, really. And these tomatoes I will be using. These are, I'm gonna make a batch of salsa tonight as well, so these will all go into that. Very meaty tomato. I'll be back when I get these all dug out. Okay, we've got our seeds and pulp in there. That was all the seeds in that whole tomato, believe it or not. Really meaty tomato, highly recommend. So we're just gonna throw a little bit of water in here so that there's enough moisture for this to ferment. You don't need a lot. I think this is probably good enough for me. And I've got my labeled piece of paper towel. I'm gonna put that right on top here and stick my lid on just so that the fruit flies can't get into it. And I'm just gonna leave this on my counter for 3 or 4 days and repeat the process, just like we started out with the ones that I had in here. And that's all there is to it. So if you've ever been intimidated by saving tomato seeds, hearing that you have to ferment them or whatever, don't be intimidated. Nothing could be easier. And none of the flesh of the tomatoes that I'm chopping up today is going to go to waste. Those are going to go into a pot that I've already chopped up a pepper and a sweet pepper and a jalapeno into, and we're going to make a batch of salsa. So come back for that. I hope you found this informative and useful and you enjoyed it, and I hope you come back. Thanks for watching.